All right, welcome back to the Western Conference Elitists. Joining you myself today. I wanted to just, give a good summary and breakdown of the Mavs' pretty controversial offseason. They got big name in Klay Thompson. Kind of Green to Grimes, people don't really have much thoughts about that. I think there's a little bit of a doubt of whether Grimes is enough to make a difference. In the same way, was Green really enough to make a difference? In some games, yes. But he wasn't a consistent force. And then there was losing DJJ and Najee Marshall. So the framework I want to look at this as is, think of it like this. In terms of what they provide to the team, think of THJ became Klay Thompson. Massive upgrade in just our marksman of the team, right? You need to have just a guy who can just knock it down. And then Green became Grimes, which I think is a little upgrade. I think especially because our team needs more point of attack defense. And also Green, whatever. We'll get into it more one at a time. And then DJJ became Najee Marshall, which is honestly the one that needs to be talked about the most. But starting with THJ becoming Klay, right? Watching the finals, right, our defense wasn't what it was the rest of the playoffs. But you know what was worse? Our offense. Our offense, it's often overlooked because we couldn't really get stops. But what was the Celtics' offensive rating, 112? That was the lowest they had all playoffs. Our offense was terrible. No one could score. It was just Luka dribbling, trying to do everything he could. But they literally, their game plan that totally stopped our offense was they let everyone shoot from the top of the break. They were okay, anyone can do it. And Josh Green hit 3 of them. And they were big shots, but we weren't going to win because of Josh Green threes. That's something you just have to acknowledge. So, and THJ is unplayable. If he's probably the worst off-ball defender I've ever seen. He is never in the right spot, always getting beat on cuts. A lot of times if you watch these plays just break down, it starts with a THJ in the wrong place. That being said, sometimes he's just a flamethrower. And the problem is he stopped being a flamethrower for a long time. He was really good for a while. 6-man of the year favorite for a chunk. And all of a sudden it just collapsed, fell off, forgot how to shoot, and he's very much so one-dimensional player. For the longest time, the Mavs have always had these one-dimensional guys, right? DFS, stand in the corner, shoot threes. Reggie Bullock, stand in the other corner and shoot threes. All these guys can do one thing. DFS was great, but he wasn't attacking closeouts. Reggie Bullock was good at his best, but he wasn't attacking closeouts. I think that's the thing Nico saw in the Mavs, that he was I can fix that, right? All you need is just players who can attack closeouts. So, and just more dynamic players. It's not such a positional game. It's not just have everyone stand outside the 3 and have someone drive and kick. That's what Luka can do, but that's not the NBA. You need to be better than just one thing, or you need to have people who complement each other perfectly. So let's get back to it. THJ becomes Klay in this Mavs situation, and I'm talking skill for skill. There's another conversation to be had about role for role, because Klay is really taking DJJ's role. And then there's the emphasis on what's most important, right? Is point of attack defense more important than just marksman shooting? Maybe. But I think people don't realize how many open looks. Like, these are threes. Like, this is going to be a huge jump in our offense. The Mavs shot last season 39.5 threes per game. That was the second in the NBA. And they were also second in the NBA in wide open threes, which is, according to NBA.com, 6 or more feet of space. That's a lot of wide open threes. That to good teams, to real finals teams, to the Celtics, those are free points. Mavs were second in amount of wide open threes and 9th in hitting them. For a finals team, that's not that good. This is a huge upgrade. Clay is going to instantly jump them. I mean, we're going from DJJ, who's a 34% shooter on 1 a game, to Clay, who's a 40% shooter on a down year on 9 a game. That's a different world. I think the problem is people are imagining DJJ, but as a more reliable shooter. We're talking about DJJ if he was a knockdown, game planned for shooter. This is going to open the playbook. Will Kidd do that? Because he's not a big offensive playbook guy. Like, let's just be honest. He's more of a gel guy, like, and player adjustments, like, yeah. I think it's also notable that the Mavs got a seat at the table, like Nico said in his entrance interview. In his first interview, he said probably 11 times. They kept asking, what can you bring? What's going to be different now that you're here? And he kept saying, the Mavericks are going to have a seat at the table. That's back-to-back off seasons. We just got the Lakers' #1 target. They wanted Klay Thompson. He's ours. For less money. We wanted Kyrie Irving. He's ours. Back-to-back. That is... Teams don't do that. They're the Lakers with LeBron. That's a big deal. And I think that's something Nico brings. He is widely respected in the basketball world. Even if you look at the finer things, right? THJ working on a trade. There's a report that comes out that says that the Mavericks are working with THJ's agent to help find a suitor for him. Why would we do that? What do we owe Timmy Hardaway Jr.? He was a nothing for us in the end. I think Nico he's smart. He has these connections, right? THJ's agent, that's a lot of other teams. There's a lot of other players out there with THJ's agent. He might even be Clutch. I don't remember. Or Rich Paul. I don't remember. But I remember he has one of those agents that have a lot of clients. He's building that connection with the agent. That's smart GM work, right? He had no reason to care about where THJ goes. He's off our team. He's done. But he helped him. He worked with the agent. I think that's pretty notable. I think in order to maximize Klay Thompson, we need to open up the playbook. The Mavs last season, according to Synergy, were 26th in shooting off the screen on threes. So coming off screens, these little curls, these movements. Basically what THJ was taking, when he was coming in. Like, we had one play in our playbook, which was that THJ off the screen 3, maybe a double screen, and you knew he was shooting it. We were 26th in the NBA in those. Other teams, do them. They actually have them in their playbook. It's free points for some teams. 26th, 32%. Klay was #1 in the NBA in it. 41% on movement threes. Last season, in a down year. That's big. That's a huge difference. That's huge. One question is the ego, right? Klay comes with baggage. I don't know how much I'm going to read into it, but at the end of the day, we're going to get to Najee Marshall, but what if we need... Sorry, my dog is getting riled up. They're cutting the trees. But what if Najee Marshall comes in and is our point of attack guy? What if he's DJJ who can shoot more and has a little bit more of a game to him? What if we need Clay off the bench? His numbers went up when he came off the bench. But what if that has to happen? I think that's something that kid is going to have to figure out. It's a kid problem, right? We're past the point of doubting kid. That's it. We did it. We took our shot at him. We said he's doing all these stupid things. He said the team isn't good enough. We said all these things. Boom. Run through the stacked Western Conference. Make it to the finals. We're done doubting kid. The same way we've been done doubting Nico. All right, well, that's Clay, right? He's the most notable. He raises our ceiling. I think you can't win the finals without shooters you can trust. We made it to the finals because our players got hot at the right time. DJJ was shooting well in the playoffs. PJ in that Thunder series, he probably had a game clinching corner three every game, it felt like, that we won. Down the stretch, PJ in the corner, bang. PJ in the regular season from the corner, wasn't that good. All our guys were hitting at the right times. Can you just count on that again? I don't think you can. And I think we needed to raise our ceiling. If Clay gets the looks that our players got last year, you'd be surprised if they don't go in. I held my breath on every shot. Because I didn't expect them to go in, but I hoped they would. Now we have a guy who you can expect, right? It's going to look good at coming off his hands. It's going to look good when he shoots it coming off a screen. It's going to look good when Luka gets doubled and Clay is on the corner. You got Kyrie across him, and then you got Clay in a corner, Lively coming up setting the screen. You know that play we always run out of double. Lively comes to the elbow, and then Lively has that one pass. That also opens the floor for Lively to turn around, attack the hoop. Can Lively shoot this year? I don't know. We're probably extrapolating a lot on his one beautiful three in the finals. It was pure. Every Mavs fan got excited. But do we think that that's going to be a real option? Because that opens this entire team up to ridiculous heights. That's 5 out. That's real Celtics level 5 out. If you have Luka, Kyrie, Clay, PJ, Lively, who can shoot, that's real 5 out. PJ is going to be our worst shooter, but he's probably our best attack closeout player, which is huge. Like, that's how you make up for being not a perfect shooter. I don't know. But next, we got to move on to Grimes, right? He's our new Josh Green. They're very similar heights, similar builds, kind of look similar on TV. Not really, like if you look at their faces, but in a game, they look similar. Grimes is a much better point of attack defender. He moves his feet really well. He can get around screens. Green was really developing. Every year he was getting better, for sure. But just the one thing I think he never really got right was that screen navigation. He never could navigate screens like DJJ or even PJ. If he got screened, he was lost. Kind of reminded me of Jalen Smith on the Cowboys all those years ago when he was a great linebacker. Him and LVE, too, holding down our defense. We had a great defense. I forgot which team it was, but one team realized if you put any motion in the backfield against the Cowboys, Jalen Smith got lost. He had no idea where to go. It confused him. And then that was it for him. He was never a good player again. Once they figured that out, every team, every single play, boom, motion, running back to the side, the other side, wide receiver across the field. That kind of is what happened to Josh Green. Once he gets screened, 5 5-on-4. He's not beating the screen. He's not slithering around it. He's not running through it, daring them to take a charge. He's getting stuck, and it's a problem. Grimes is better at that. You also got to remember, when Grimes was on the Knicks, he was guarding the other team's best player. And according to StatMuse, the Knicks were the number 1 defense when that happened. When Grimes was the best defender on the Knicks, they were the number 1 defense. I don't know. I don't think he starts. But that's pretty big. That's not a joke. He's also a more confident shooter, right? I think that's the theme of the offseason. I think Nico wanted to get similar guys who are just more confident shooters. You have to see, we lost because the Celtics could just game plan for our bad three-point shooting. We had a weakness. The same way the Thunder had the height weakness, or the size, because Chet's pretty tall, but he didn't have the size. Minnesota had that pick and roll Rudy Gobert weakness. The Clippers they found our weakness that one game with the Harden floaters, with our drop coverage. But then eventually we just out-talented them, to be honest. It's a game of weaknesses. Your weakness is going to get exposed. Our weakness was our role guys don't want to shoot because they don't believe they're good shooters. We got guys who want to shoot. Clay wants to shoot. Grimes wants to shoot. He's a confident shooter. This past year, Grimes only shot 34% from 3. Whatever. He was traded on the Pistons. He didn't really have a real role on the Knicks. 2 years ago, as in not this year, the last year, shot 39% from 3. The year before, 38%. On like 4 a game. He hit two threes a game on average, efficiently. That's huge. This year, Josh Green shot 39%, but only hit 1 a game. We weren't winning games from Josh Green threes. We were getting 3 points off of them. 3 points. It was really fun though to watch Green develop. Remember that initial Clipper series? They were leaving him in the corner, brick, every play. It was rough. You got to remember also Grimes, 2 years ago, was widely considered untouchable in a Donovan Mitchell trade. He was the number 1 defender on the number 1 defense in the Knicks, 40% shooter, multiple a game. He was an elite 3-and-D guy. You got it, and he's only 24? I think this move may look really good at midseason. I think it might be, how did we get this guy? I think he fell through the cracks of the NBA. I think it's a big move. And then there's the real focus of our entire offseason, if you're trying to understand it. Signing Najee Marshall for $1 million a year less than DJJ. Before DJJ got signed. I don't know. This has... when you're stressed and trying to think about something, you just run your hand through your hair. That's just what this is, right? You trust Nico. Like I said, trust Nico, trust Kid. They've earned it. But DJJ was so good for us. He was so good. But let's talk about his weaknesses, right? Shooting. We talk about it like DJJ came to the Mavs and all of a sudden is some knockdown shooter. He shot 34%. There's a reason he was left open in the finals. There's a reason they thought to try it. There's a reason that they let him shoot. From the corner, he was good. But what happens when they only guard him in the corner? Is he going to shoot above the break? I hope not. They sucked. They were terrible shots. You need players who demand to be respected. You don't win the finals with just Luka and a bunch of good defenders. You need someone else. You need everyone else to be able to pitch in. It's a team sport, and we get a little bit spoiled by Luka. We think that he can just take the burden of offense. But at the end of the day, you need other guys who are going to help. So DJJ, those dunks, man, Flight 55, those were electric. I loved every second of those. But let's talk about this swap, DJJ for Marshall. We chose Marshall. Similar contracts. We signed him before DJJ. This was on purpose. Nico didn't think we could do it with DJJ. He didn't think we could. You have to trust him. If you don't, then what are we, right? We're just another one of those franchises. I think we're a little bit in the dark on his potential. He was a little bit lost in the Pelicans' rotation. And that's fair. They had a deep rotation. They were still missing some guys at the top. The Pelicans are like a social experiment. It's like if you can put every single almost all-star on one team, right? CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion even, because he always gets injured and doesn't make the all-star game. DeJounte Murray. It's like Valanciunas in his prime. Like it's just like every single almost all-star. Of course, Valanciunas is gone now, but it's every almost all-star on one team. Like, they are not going to go far. I would be shocked. Unless they make some good trades. I think they have a lot of pieces. So, whatever. Anyways, Najee Marshall, he was lost a little bit in the rotation. There's a possibility that this gamble on Marshall is the one that hurts us. You have to think of it. He's a lot like DJJ before coming to the Mavs. DJJ was our last move on the roster last year. Like, we weren't sure about him at all. Like, I would say I'm much more sure about Najee Marshall right now than I was when we got DJJ. I didn't think he was going to play. And this huge shooting growth of DJJ ended up being, right, in the beginning he was on fire, and it was a big surprise. And that's why we had this narrative of him learning how to shoot with the Mavs, and also just seeing all his threes being wide open was beautiful. But at the end of the day, he shot the same percentage 2 years in a row. Like he didn't actually shoot better. 34% back-to-back years. Like, that's not good enough for a small forward. And I think that's the ceiling. His ceiling is what happened this year. No matter how many times we play the Celtics, with this exact lineup, we will lose. You need versatile guys. You need someone who can defend and shoot. And shooting is much harder to find than defense. A lot of defense is just body, like the way people are constructed, right? The anatomy of players and mindset. That's a lot of it. Like, you see Luka when he locks in, he can play real defense. We saw him lock up Kawhi. We saw him play great defense for stretches in the playoffs. A lot of it is buying in. That's the kid system. Funnel to the big men. We got Lively. We got Gafford. You just have to be smart and in the right place, and everyone can look better than they are. So maybe losing DJJ doesn't hurt that much. It's possible. Clay's not a weak defender. We have to clarify. We're talking about him like he's a weak defender. He's not. He is not going to be a weakness on defense. He's just not number one defender on a good team guy. Anyways, let's stick with Najee Marshall. On the Pelicans, he wasn't as good of a point of attack defender as DJJ, for sure. He wasn't. But he's an inch taller with an inch longer wingspan. So I think he has the traits. And our system is very different from the Pelicans, our defensive system. We funnel to our big men shot blockers and rotate around the edges. The Pelicans very much so don't have a shot blocker like that. It doesn't exist. They don't want Zion working that hard on defense. But we're fine just dumping it on Lively. The Pelicans last season had a 106.8 rating, defensive rating with Marshall on the floor, and a 113 rating when he was off. Their defense got better when he was on. Of course, there's no context to that. But he can be part of a good defense. He can become part of a really good defense. His 3-shot looks very smooth. It doesn't look like DJJ's. DJJ looks sloppy. It looks very lefty. A lot of variation in it. There's a reason his ceiling is a 34% three-point shooter, right? These are back-to-back his best season shooting 3 ever for DJJ, 34%. Najee Marshall last season, 39% on 2 a game. Remember all those DJJ head down, attack the closeout drives, just run at Tingus in the finals? Terrible stretches, a lot of the Celtics runs. I think Najee is a more cerebral player. He can score from more angles. When he's attacking the closeout, his goal isn't just to try and jump as high as he can and draw a foul. Or have some crazy Michael Jordan layup. He can score from angles. He has better touch. He has that floater. He's not just a dunker. So, I don't know. Najee shot 39% from 3 last year, but 2 years ago he shot 30%. 3 years ago, 20%. He's been getting better every year. But was this year just a fluke? I hope not. 2 a game is not a lot, but it's also not a little. It's more than Josh Green. So if you think Josh Green's a good shooter, think of Najee as almost double as valuable in his shooting. Najee Marshall, 41% on corner threes. Not taking into account contests or anything, but I'm assuming that number gets higher when he's 6 feet open, which the Mavs had the second most threes in the NBA. And when I say he's got that touch with the floater, I wouldn't say he's got that in his bag, but I would say that he can do it, right? He has touch. He's not PJ, right? PJ has that floater as a move he likes to go to. If he attacks a closeout, there's a very good chance he's taking a floater. If Najee's first look isn't there, he pump fakes a 3, he drives, there's a big man in front of him, then maybe he'll go to a floater. And he can hit it. It's not PJ who looks for it. It's more that he can do it. Overall, Najee is a much, much better offensive player. Even though those DJJ lobs were electric. In the AAC, everyone's jumping. Half-court lobs from Luka. No one does it like that. No one else does it like that. But Marshall's he's got more to him. The question is, can he play good defense on a guard? Can he guard guards? Can he guard squared? I don't know. We'll find out. Nico thinks he can. He wouldn't have chosen him over DJJ. He knows that that's what DJJ did for us. But he knows our ceiling is as far as our three-point shooting capability takes us. The Celtics just won the finals. The Warriors won the finals. The Nuggets won the finals with MPJ and KCP and Jamal Murray. These are reliable shooters. The Warriors had Curry, Clay. Wiggins was the best player in the NBA for a while. Kevon Looney was the best rebounder in the NBA. Right? You need capable shooters. Who won the finals recently without capable shooters? Doesn't happen. You need guys who are going to step into it and put it up and feel good about it. You're not holding your breath. You're not DJJ where if he hits 2 threes, it's an amazing game. It's Najee Marshall. He hits 40% from 3. He can hit to a game every other game. These are guys that you have to guard. I think that's the theme. Clay, Grimes, Marshall. Players that affect the other team's defense and affect them in a bad way for the other team, right? DJJ, PJ, Green, Kleba, these guys affect the other team in a good way. They just let them shoot from anywhere but the corner. And they kill us for it. It is hard to score when the other team only guards 2 players. And honestly, if another team did this earlier, they probably could have beaten us. They probably could have. The Thunder dared us to beat them from the corner. And we did. We hit our corner threes on them. What if they dared us to beat them from the top of the key like the Celtics? I'm not sure we do it. I don't think they thought of it. I've never seen a strategy like that where a team only let another team shoot from one area and they sold out for the others, like the Celtics did. They also put Tatum on Lively, so those lobs weren't really there. On the pick and roll, we were one-dimensional. We were very one-dimensional. And this opens us up. It raises our ceiling a lot. It takes away our safety blanket, which is we can just ride good defense. We used to be able to ride good defense, make it into close games, and then just have Luka rope us out. Sometimes Dexum, Dante's Inferno. He would just light up. And we would just stay close enough to win. But at some point, you got to just be able to win for real with everyone. So, I don't know. We'll see. I think there's a serious chance the Mavericks got a lot better this offseason. There's a real chance. And we did it all without our 2 picks. That's looming. I was debating this with my co-host, but I think there's a benefit to holding on to those 2 picks. I think there's a huge benefit waiting till we know exactly what we need. Is it Kyle Kuzma? Probably not. Is it Jeremy Grant? Maybe. But you better hope it is if you trade those picks. That's it. That's it. You're done. That's your last move. After that, you got to start messing with the rotation. Rotation guys are leaving if you use these picks. And then looming over everything, of course, it wouldn't be a podcast if I didn't mention Omax. He is a factor, right? You can't chalk him up for anything yet. Not until you see it. But it exists. It exists in the way that Lively shooting threes exists. Maybe even a little less. But hopefully he can be a guy. So, in summary, right? How does it all fit? Our shooting takes a massive step forward. We shot a lot of open threes in the finals. That's our goal now. Our goal is to win the finals. We made it to the finals, now we got to win them. Our shooting got better. It got trustworthy. We have shooters throughout the lineup. We got Luka, Kyrie, Clay. PJ's a question mark. Lively's a question mark. A bigger question mark. Grimes, trust it. Najee, trust it. Hardy, it's a good question mark. Kleba, bad question mark. Throughout the lineup, though, we have capable shooters that didn't exist before. It didn't. It was just THJ. And God knows he wasn't playable. Now we don't have to rely on our role guys catching fire at the right time. We can just have good shooters. Grimes is probably an upgrade over Green. He's got that point of attack defense, and who knows? One thing that we have to get used to, though, is our best two perimeter defenders, point of attack, of course, is probably going to be Marshall and Grimes, both coming off the bench. What does that mean? We have to figure that out. It's very similar to the Pelicans, honestly. DeJounte Murray's not that kind of defender. I just want to clarify to anyone who hasn't watched the NBA in 3 years. DeJounte Murray is not like an all-defense defender. He's okay. Just has long arms. That's a lot. It's a lot for a kid to puzzle together. But our ceiling got higher, and that's kind of the goal of the offseason if you just lose in the finals. We're past the doubting Nico and Kid phase. You just got to give them the pieces and see what they can cook. But that's my Mavs offseason breakdown. Hopefully it painted a good picture, as we like to say here at Western Conference Elitists. It's also worth mentioning the Thunder are scary. I'm scared, personally. I don't know how other people feel about them, but they scare me. That's it. I think the Nuggets got a lot worse. Losing KCP, losing Bruce Brown, back-to-back off seasons. They're falling apart. They lost their GM who built them. Now they were just trying to keep it all together. I don't know if they can fix it. The Warriors are kind of screwed. They're a disaster. Lakers, also screwed. Memphis, I don't know. They're the biggest question mark in the NBA. San Antonio, they're trying to feel it out. They're not ready to commit all out on this roster. And I think that's a good idea. That's what the Mavs tried to just, they said, Luka's really good. Let's pair him with someone who on paper should be good. A shooting big. Keep the paint open. Another scorer, Kristaps Porzingis. On paper it worked, but we've never seen it yet. And there was a lot that went wrong because we hadn't seen it. There was all sorts of issues we didn't even know would be issues. So I think the Spurs are just trying to see what happens. You got to take it one step at a time sometimes. But yeah, that's my Mavs breakdown. If you enjoy, subscribe, follow on Spotify, Western Conference Elitists. Of course, comment, and we'll see you soon. Peace.